So after they arrested us, actually they didn't arrest us, they cited us with a misdemeanor charge of killing an endangered species animal, killing a grizzly bear in a closed season. They knew it was killed in self-defense with bow and arrows, primitive weapons. There was no gun anywhere on the mountain, and to this point in time, nobody has ever said that there was a gun on that mountain, because there wasn't. So they had us cited for, I think, 4 days, and things that they've kind of gone away from us and left us in our misery, and we're trying to think, what are we going to do? We know we got a court case coming now because we have citations, and that's when that bear carcass started eating at me. What is that bear carcass doing on that mountain, and why was that big bear so skinny? The fact that a bear is skinny means he's not eating, which may have meant why he attacked us was to get food, because he was in a starving condition. This might be the reason the bear attacked us. I had to get that evidence. So I went up the mountain in the middle of the night with my pack horse, and I got the emaciated carcass of that grizzly bear, and I brought it down, and I froze it solid so that I could endure the ride to Missoula with it. And I took it to Missoula, and I presented it to Dr. Jonkel, Dr. Charles Jonkel at the University of Montana, probably the most respected individual with grizzly bear recovery in the state of Montana and possibly the nation. But I was thinking of legal consequences. How I was getting in deeper trouble. If I transport an illegally killed bear, endangered species, I might be in terrible, terrible trouble. Bigger trouble than killing the bear. So I decided that I would submit the carcass of grizzly bear borax 14 to Dr. Charles Jonkel as evidence for the state, not evidence for Billy Hill, evidence for the state of Montana who was prosecuting Billy Hill. That's the only way I could keep away from federal charges, state charges, and still get this starving carcass into evidence. And that's what I did. It wasn't even 5 days after I supplied the state with evidence that could possibly convict me. Possibly. I didn't think it could. I had nothing to do with his starving, but anyway, I submitted it. And 5 days later, as a reserve officer in the county of Sanders, Montana, I get a phone call from our county sheriff, and he says, "Bill, I've got something I need you to do." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I need you to put your horse in your trailer and go out on this farm and run horses off of this guy's property with your horse. Run them off." I said, "Okay, I've got a lot on my mind." And he said, "No, I need this done." He was adamant. "I need this done. I need it done today. I'm tired of listening to people call me and yell at me." So I calculated that I could put off my misery and go ahead and take care of that. So I went out to take care of that. And when I left my house, the sheriff that had sent me out to run these horses appeared at my house, and there was 11 armed federal, state, and county agents that came to my house, and they raided my house in my absence. During the time that the 11 armed male federal agents were at my house, I believe that's a misstatement. I believe there was one woman there. I mean, I'm trying to remember 30 years ago, and what I had heard from my wife. So anyway, they let her have coffee for 3.5 hours while she was confined to a chair. And they ransacked my house, gathered up all of my business records, which I needed because I was in the middle of an active hunting season. When these two people left, I had other people coming in. I had to correspond with them, meet them, transport them. If I don't have their phone numbers, I'm negligent. And I'm also guilty of breach of contract if I'm failing to perform the service that I agreed to. If they take my records, I have no way to contact my clients. So my wife vigorously tried to defend them records, telling these people he needs at least a copy of them. If you're going to take them, copy them so that he can still function. Because he's innocent until proven guilty, he still has a right to run his business until some decision says he can't. Well, they said, no, we're not doing any of that, but we are taking the records. The sheriff of the county said that, undersheriff. So my wife got out of her chair and attempted to hang on to the records. At that point, she was swung vigorously, savagely, into a chair and a table, and her back hit the corner of a table and hurt her back. So she realized at that point she wasn't going to win any argument with them physically, so she sat down. But they took everything out of there. They didn't let her review the search warrant, but the search warrant, as this story progresses, will definitely be a significant question. Anyway, the first trial that we went through was for 6 days, and we were found not guilty. We had a period where I went home and I thought about what they had done to me, to my family, to everybody, and involved, the clients. Anyway, I was beginning to become educated about agendas of these federal agencies, state agencies, the money trails that they follow with these recovery efforts. And I decided that we had all been denied our right to self-defense in the state of Montana, which is Montana Code 87-3-130. And it states, any individual is totally entitled to a legal defense of his life, the life of others, and property. And I said, how were we ever allowed a right to self-defense if the fact the bear had died and we hadn't, and we were charged for defending our lives against a bear that was on the attack, the aggressor? We were not the aggressors. We simply were defensive, but we were denied our right to defend our lives, the life of others, by the state of Montana and the federal government, partners in Grizzly Bear recovery. And I said, this is illegal what they did to us. So I talked to my attorney, and he agreed that we should sue for malicious prosecution, which we did. And in February in 1986, we filed that suit. And it took some time, probably 4 years, to get through the court system in Montana. But we won $107,000 damages, just enough to pay the attorneys. My wife and I, to this minute, have never seen a cent out of that lawsuit, not one penny. So when we won that $107,000, the state of Montana kicked this case up on appeal to the Montana Supreme Court for review and appeal, and in 1990 the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that yes, in fact, we three people had been denied our legal right to defend our lives. So by by doing that, the case of Hill versus Burlingame and State of Montana, case number 89-626, sits there today as a precedent self-defense case in the state of Montana. I want to explore that just a minute. There were only bow and arrows on that mountain, but our legal right to self-defense is so broad that this case that was heard and is precedent in the state of Montana covered rifles, slingshots, any means of self-defense that you can come up with in a moment's notice to defend yourself is a legal weapon. It also goes into your bedroom, every resident's bedroom in Montana. It goes any time that you feel fear that your life is in danger, you have the right to physically defend your life and legally defend your life and the life of others and even property. Keep that in mind, property also. This is a broad law. But the fact that the Supreme Court unanimously supported the fact we had been denied our right to self-defense also said that big government had an agenda different than the state of Montana, because Montana ruled the federal government could not deny us our state right to self-defense.